I knew it was her. Hey everybody, I'm Melanie from Screen Time with Mel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're returning, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as you enjoyed the last one. And if you're brand new, well, thanks for checking me out. Please enjoy this video. Alright, so we're going to talk about Willow Season 1, Episode 1, The Gales. Okay, so we start off this video with a recap of the movie. Now, any self-respecting Willow fan has already rewatched the movie just before, fairly recently, since they heard that this was coming out soon, right? I know I did. I think I watched it like a week ago, maybe a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I know I did. Anyway, so they talk about that and they add on to it that that Willow, after the war, Willow had a prophetic dream, and he realized that Alora is there's still this, like, Bavmorda was not completely killed. Her spirit's still out there and is trying to get back and influence the world. So Bavmorda is still this looming evil that they have to take care of. And Alora Dannon, of course, is going to be the person that is going to have to save them. Alora Dannon will. They talk about that, and then they move into the show. Now, they start out the show with Saoirse's kids, and Saoirse and Madmartigan's kids. And that's Kit, the girl, and she is, in the beginning, she is training, sword fighting with another girl, Jade. I would say that that's her trainer. This girl is training to be a knight, but I don't know if she's her trainer or they're just close and they decided that they're going to spar together. Then they also cut to their son, who is Eric, and I love the spelling of Eric. It's spelled A-I-R-K. Love that spelling. Anyway, Eric, and he is having a picnic. Actually, he's just making out with one of the maids from the castle. One of the maids from the castle, scullery maid, I believe. She's known for her muffins. She makes delicious muffins, right? They both get recalled by individuals, being told that they have to basically bathe and get dressed for this party because they're receiving a king from another land. Okay? Of course, Kit is not interested. They're making her out to be completely tomboy and not interested in wearing dresses at all. In fact, she's even got shorter hair. I'm so used to these fantasy shows with the princess having longer hair, so it's kind of nice to see her having like shorter hair. And she convinces her friend Jade to go as well. And I don't know if you guys know, the girl who plays Jade has been in a couple other things. She's been in Star Wars, she's been in MCU, she's excellent. So they end up all going to the party. Well, this party, you find out, is actually receiving the king from another land, which you know that, but it's because the princess, Kit, is going to be getting married to the son of the king that is visiting, so the prince. So they're going to be getting married, and it's arranged marriage. She is not having it, and honestly I think she's more interested in Jade than she is in the dude. They do the dancing, they're okay, but then Jade tells her that she has been offered training in this elite group of for the knights. While they haven't accepted any women in the past, they made an exception for her, so it's a big deal, and she's going to leave right after her wedding to go training. This gets Kit so upset that she ends up showing her ass at the freaking dance. That's what she does. So at the dance, the party, whatever you want to call it, the dinner. So she makes a fool of herself and is nasty to Jade, is nasty to her betrothed, and just is egging everybody on. And then she storms off, and her brother follows her, who is trying to smooth things over. Her brother follows her and is trying, again, still trying to smooth things over with her. But she gets onto him saying that you don't, if you had the responsibilities like these, you would just run away like you always do. I find it interesting that they're stating that he doesn't have any responsibilities, because you would think that he would have the same set of responsibilities as Kit. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. Like, they would be arranging his marriage just as much as they're arranging her marriage. But we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, they have the party. They go their separate ways. The maid ends up coming up to Eric and says, you know what? I can't see you anymore. I got jealous watching you talk to those women. And I ended up burning my muffins. And that, gasp, you burnt the muffins? You, of all people? Yeah, that's how it was. So, I keep on thinking her as the muffin girl. You have the muffin man. She's the muffin girl. Anyway, I digress. So, the prince actually says, well, what if I did want to commit to you? Which is something he's never said in the past. And they end up in his room. They're talking. And that's all they're doing, just talking about things. And then, Kit goes to Jade. Jade is sleeping, so this seems to be later in the evening, and says, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. And just at that time, some fog starts rolling in, and in with the fog comes these nasty creatures, and they start attacking. That includes the dogs that were in the movie. Those same dogs. They're back, and they looked the same. It's funny. They didn't improve much on them, so they kept them about the same, which I really like that. And they had this incredible fight scene. At the beginning of the fight scene, it's this big troll-like looking dude with a cage on his head. What? When I see stuff like that, I'm like, what is the purpose of that? Is that like a muzzle to keep him from biting people? But then doesn't that make him ineffective in war? Anyway, so he's got like this cage on his head. And then there's a bird swooping in and everything. And there's this one guy that comes in, and he has these whips with a piece of sharpened, it looks like bone on the tip. He has these whips, and he's trying to get these people. So in the meantime, swords just coming out, sword fighting. Everybody's fighting, and it's a little chaotic. I liked it. It was a really good fight scene, but it was all close in, so it was a little chaotic. You didn't know exactly what was going on, which is kind of good because you missed Prince Eric being taken, just like everybody else. Because it was all that chaos going on, and you're doing that one-on-one fighting. But the prince from the other land did catch it. So they meet in the hall after the fight, and they decide what's going to be done. Kit says, I'm going after my brother. I don't care what you say, I'm going after my brother. And Jade says, well, I'm going to go with Kit and help protect her. The head guard or whatever says, I'm going to go. And then the older guy says, no, you can't. You're the head of the guard. You have to stay here. I'll go. So maybe he is the retired head guard. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, he goes. Then there's a prisoner that has been in the castle, who basically is going to be your rogue figure. And these different roles feel very tropey, but I'm okay with that if I get connected with the characters on a personal level. So we have this rogue character, which actually right now, in this first episode, he's kind of my favorite. But, maybe that's just me. Anyway, they say, you know what? If you go with them and help them, then I will pardon you of all your crimes. Okie dokie, he's gonna go now. So that's the two adults. The older captain guy, the older guard guy, and then this rogue guy. That's the two adults. That's the only two adults that are going. And then, because Kit's going, the king says, well, my son's going too. And he's like, wait, what? What? Huh? He's like, you are not going to let her go on her own. You will go. So he's going too. So you've got these three kids and two adults going into, that's all. That's it. Nobody else. Going into these, unknown lands, because they've got to cross this barrier that's been created to keep everybody safe. They have to cross that barrier and go into these lands to find Eric. So just those people. Well, as they're traveling, they feel like they're being followed, and they finally kind of stop and they capture the person following them. Well, it just so happens to be Dove, and that's what the Prince Eric calls the maid that he's been dallying with. So Dove is following And they find out Dove is following, and she insists that she's going to go with them. They say, nope, you need to turn around, go back home. It is too dangerous. You do not need to go with us. But they decide that it's nighttime, so they're all going to go to sleep, and then they'll take her back in the morning, or send her back in the morning. Well, come morning, she's gone. Nowhere to be found. Because she's like, they're not sending me back. I'm doing what I have to do. So she goes across, she finds this bridge, it's not a bridge, but it's a tree. I mean, there's no trees around this whole canyon. It's this one tree that happened to fall to make a bridge. Well, I guess somebody maybe made a bridge there. But anyway, they went across this bridge, and she went across this trunk. Well, while she's going across the trunk, the original party, goes and finds the gate, the official gate. And they find that there's no guards there, and there's blood writing on the wall. Well, the only one that can read it is the king's son, which I need to catch his name sometime. I'll catch it here soon. In the next episode, maybe. But the king's son, he starts reading it, and as he's reading it, the whole earth shakes. And as that's happening, well, that tree falls, but, in the nick of time, the dove catches onto the side, and she's able to, she gets across. Okay, safely, but there was a scary moment there. Now, Dove is able to go through the barrier with no problem. It's like the magic is caressing her when she gets up to it. She touches it, and it reaches out to her, which I find fascinating. And that was another clue that she was a Laura Dannon as well, in my opinion. That was another clue. So she goes through the barrier, and then the other party goes through the gate, and they happen to see each other because they're crossing this like barren field, and she's right there. They all start getting onto her, and she's like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. The older captain guy, or the older guards guy, he's like, well, everybody, we need to keep our eyes out because you never know where trouble's gonna come from. And then an arrow pierces through him, and he dies. Yeah, he dies. And then all of a sudden, it's the bone reavers are coming after him. That's like the known baddie in the area, the bone reavers, and they're just outside the border. So they start coming after him. So they go running off. And one thing I found curious at this time, okay, and maybe it's just me, but the captain had a horse, and instead of Dove getting on that horse and racing away with him, no, they leave that horse, just leave him to his own devices, and she gets on the horse with Kit. Kit grabs her and puts her on the horse. So they make it, as they're running, they're going full speed towards a cliff, and the rogue guy, which I can't remember his name, but I love the character, I can't remember his name. The rogue guy is saying something over and over and over again, and the horse just full speed ahead, goes right off the cliff. And the rest of the horses follow. And they said, how did you do that? Normally horses don't do that. How did you make that happen? What were you saying? And he said, oh, it's an ancient language, and I was saying stop. It was funny. It was a funny moment. I enjoyed it. So they continue on, and they eventually find Willow's village. Now the village looks completely deserted. And it was like all the buildings are like not even together, just deserted. But there's one Elwyn there, and he starts saying, "What do you want?" "Oh, Daikini, just what I need." I think it's the guy who was Willow's best friend. I think it's that same guy. I should probably check the name on him in the IMDb, but I think that's who it is. So he acts like he's Willow, starts asking him questions. They're answering, and Willow comes out and says, "Don't worry, it's them. They are who they say they are." And he says, "Oh, you remind me of your mother," to Kit. And he starts telling him the story and stops mid-sentence, and then looks at Dove and says, "It can't be you." And he goes to her with not even a bite or leave or anything at all. Just yanks down she has these sleeves on. So just yanks down the sleeve where her marking would be. It's not there. Her skin is clear. But then puts his hand on her arm and speaks some words, and the marking appears. And boom, announces that she's a Laura Dannon. Of course, she's in disbelief, and everybody's shocked. And that ends the episode. that ends the episode. So, my thoughts on this episode, it's a setup episode, which is probably why they released 2 episodes. It's a setup to get them on their journey to do what they need to do. As in most high fantasy style shows, they have a quest that they have to fulfill. So it's setting all this up, right? I did think it was a little obvious who Laura Dannon was, even though they were trying to keep that a mystery. But they weren't trying to keep it a mystery for the full season. They just did it for that 1 episode. So it wasn't too big of a deal that it was a little obvious. I love the Rogue character. I thought he was pretty amazing. I loved him. I think I'm going to like Kit, but right now she's kind of annoying me. She feels a little entitled and a little whiny. But you know, so is Luke Skywalker at the beginning, right? So I may end up loving her. I don't know, but right now I'm not her biggest fan. And her brother Eric, his character's a little bit shallow, but it's got just a tiny bit of depth as far as him, you know, making sure that he would be by her side and smoothing things over. But he's like the cute, charismatic one that always gets away with everything, right? But you know, that's okay, because he was kidnapped this episode, so we may not see him. I do hope that as we go throughout the season, they're going to kind of go over and have some scenes with him where he's at, because I think that will help keep those stakes a little bit high for the team that's coming to meet him. So I hope that they do that. Willow still reminds me the same little excitable, same kind of Willow. I'm glad that he didn't change him too much. You know, of course he aged and stuff like that, but still a little excitable. And the other characters, Jade. I love Jade. I like her. Her character's still a little bit shallow. There's not much depth to it yet, but I'm hoping that we'll get there. I think we do start to get there a little bit in the next episode. But yeah. So anyway, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this episode? Are you liking the direction things are going? Do you like this kind of traditional, kind of almost tropey style of characters and stuff? Did you like that? Did it work for you? You know, because people may call it a trope, thinking it's negative, but you know what? The tropes work for a reason, because people love them, and I love them. I love them. As long as you do them right, you got to do them right. So what did you think of everything? Was there something that I missed that I should have discussed? Let me know down below all your thoughts. I'd love to have that discussion with you. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And if you like all things television and some movies, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell so that you're reminded each time I come out with a brand new video. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.